Hello, my name is Sophia. I'm a high school senior in Ellicott City, and today I had the opportunity to interview Ned Tillman, the award-winning author of The Big Melt. I was drawn to the novel because of its focus on environmental issues and sustainability, and I was hoping I could ask you a few questions today.
I'm glad to be here, Sophia.
First off, besides being an author, what do you do?
Well, I actually really like walking in the woods, and I like climbing mountains and kayaking down rivers. But I expect you were thinking more professionally. I'm an earth scientist. I always like being outdoors, so I thought science would be a way to allow me to have a job being outdoors a lot. So I worked with people. I worked with people to understand the impacts of our population growth on our support system. I try to understand the climate and the biosphere and the geosphere and how they all interact with us being here. And so my job basically is to help people look at their impacts, their waste streams, how they develop and use the lands. And I try to help them find better ways so that we're not damaging our basic resources that we need on the planet.
When did you start your journey into environmental activism?
As a young man, I studied science, and then I worked for 20 or 30 years helping assess and clean up a lot of the contamination in the planet. Is that activism? I don't think so, but it was helping make a difference. In my 40s, I was asked to work for the Howard County Conservancy, a nonprofit land trust. And that became it gave me an opportunity to really understand the interaction between policies, development, and preservation. But I guess the real activism started about 15 years ago when I started spending all my time on sharing information with others. I ended up writing 3 books. I've given 100 talks, and I've worked with lots of different organizations. So I guess you would call me an activist today, though over my whole career, I would say I was more of an earth or environmental scientist.
What do you want readers to take away from The Big Melt?
The Big Melt is supposed to be a book that really engages and inspires people, the reader, to think about the future and to create a picture in their minds of what it might look like so they can make better decisions. How can you make decisions without knowing what the future is going to be like? I think aside from that understanding of the future, the whole idea of getting inspired to do something, I sure hope people, after reading the book, will certainly pass it on to others, but also look at their own lives and decide what they should be doing to make the future better.
While reading the book, I really related to Brienne's character. Which of the characters in The Big Melt are your favorite?
I like all the characters, and I think that's because there's a bit of me in every character, and a bit of a lot of my friends. I try to create a range of people who are probably composites of all of us. My favorite character is Joe, but I don't want to discuss him in this interview. You have to read the book to learn about Joe. But I think Doc is the most intriguing character. Here's a guy who has the big picture look at things. He's very knowledgeable, but he's a recluse. He doesn't get out much. But the way he talks about things really helps the protagonist, Marley, to figure out what to do. And so he helps Marley, and then Marley helps him get out of his shell and contribute as well.
Some of the stories in The Big Melt seemed over the top, and I like that because it made it a lot more interesting to read. Which of the stories in the book are fact and which are fiction?
Good question, and I love it when somebody picks up the book and reads and says, that can't happen. Well, most of the things in the book can happen or based in real science. I do exaggerate to make it fun, but what I would really like to see people do is, if there's something they're questioning like that, is to go look it up. In fact, I have teachers saying this is a great text for discussing what is fact and fiction. How do you know what's right? Who do you go to talk to? How do you use deductive logic? How do you use the scientific method to come up with fact? It's a real problem in society today, and hopefully this book engages the reader in that discussion.
What would you say is the main message of The Big Melt?
The big message of The Big Melt. Well, I think it's that the climate is changing. We cause the change, we can help reverse it. And it's going to take all of us to do that. It's a real challenge, but we can't wait any longer. So the big message is we've got to get on with it now.
How can we take action as individuals in a step towards a greener climate?
I didn't try to address it, but one of my characters in the book tried to address that. Jim creates this top 10 steps for a cooler climate. I think that list applies to most of us. We all could take a list like that and make some significant changes. And we'll take us all to do that. What's interesting is I don't care if you use that list or you create your own. I think the important thing is that you think about the challenges and what we can do. And there's some very simple things we can do that won't cost money. And in fact, there are things that we can do that could save us money. It's just this commitment to do it is the big challenge.
Many people deny climate change or they're aware of it, but they don't see it as a big of an issue. What would you like to see to motivate these people?
Well, there's about 7% of the public that continues to deny it, and I'm not sure I can ever change their mind. But I think I can inspire people to think more about it, talk more about it, research it, and take action. Even the choir, who strongly believes in it, is by not taking enough action. So I would really like to see more conversation on what families, what communities can do. And I believe the more we talk about it, the more we'll understand it. And we'll see what is being done successfully all around the planet, and we'll adopt some of these practices here.
What is the role of younger generations specifically in the fight towards a greener climate?
Oh, it's very important. It's very important. I think the most important thing that all of us can do, but certainly the younger generation, is to hone their skills, really practice their skills of listening, of communicating, of getting inspired, of organizing. We're going to need people in all branches of society trying to apply better techniques and practices all across the board.
The Big Melt can be classified as climate fiction or cli-fi. What is the role of cli-fi in environmental activism?
Well, fiction has always been very important for all social movements. It's very hard to make decisions when you just have facts, so it's just scientific data. For most people, it's overwhelming. What's interesting here is fiction can make all that much more palatable. It can get at the emotion. I mean, I'm hoping people, when they read my book, get a visceral reaction to what's happening, because families are being affected, communities are being affected. It's kind of hard to take science and get to action without having some passion developed in the people in the process. So yes, I think it's fiction, especially climate fiction, is going to be extremely helpful in getting us all thinking and acting together.
Do you predict climate fiction to be a growing genre?
I think there's a lot of literature that will start incorporating more and more information about climate. Because how can you have a story that doesn't? Whether it's in the present or in the future, you have to create the setting, you have to create the scene. And if it's the same old scene that was around for the last 100 years, it's not believable. We know things are changing, they will continue to. And so climate fiction is going to be much more widespread in the future.
Climate change is a pressing issue that can often feel extremely overwhelming. How do we maintain and create hope in this situation?
That's a real question and a real challenge, because there are so many challenges we face. What's interesting to me, though, is in my communications with others, people in China, people in India care about their kids as much as we do. There's a lot going on in these other countries, but we're one of the biggest polluters. They can't do it alone. They need us to act as well. So I think there's a lot of hope if we can act in this country. I mean, I see it happening every day in businesses all across the country, going to solar or wind or getting rid of plastics. It's encouraging, but there's a lot more to do. And the fact that more and more people are coming out to the talks I give and different events, I'm encouraged. I think there's hope in numbers. There's hope seeing people take action. We just have to get on with it.
Thank you very much for your time today. I certainly learned a lot, and I know others will be able to take away the same message of hope.
Thank you for having me. Wish you the best.